Hi everyone, Dan here on the NAMM showroom floor, day 4, last day in NAMM. Come by if you haven't seen us yet. Today I wanted to go over the new compressor plugin that was released by Dave Bendeth on Black Friday of 2014. We're actually going to be releasing a ProChannel module of this program pretty soon, and I wanted to show it off to everybody today. So if you guys want to come by and hang out if you want. Yeah. No, come on.
I don't know if you were being recorded.
Yeah, no, we are. We're doing this live.
Oh, right.
Yeah, man. So the Dave Bendeth plugin, what is it? It's an awesome EQ, compressor, expander, gate plugin. What you can do is you can use this thing to really crush drums. It's very notable on many drum recordings, the hardware unit that it's based off of, and it's a killer device. So let's go ahead and demo some drums out. Turn this up just a little bit. Let's show what this guy is doing here. So let's turn this off. Now let's turn on the compressor. We'll jack this up a little bit so So that's the compressor on, off, on. So what we're doing is we're adding some energy to this track. There are various things that are going on inside the plugin. Right now I have it in a pretty basic compression mode, but let's talk about what's going on. So first I want you guys to take a look at this section right over here. So what this dry knob is actually an attenuation for the amount of dry signal you can put into it. So you can actually do parallel compression right on this guy. So if you turn this up, add the dry track in, and then you'll obviously have to adjust the output as you're doing that. And what you're doing is you're parallel compressing right on the actual plugin. So that's pretty cool. Not a lot of compressors these days have an actual mix wet button on them. We have one inside of SONAR that's pretty cool, but this one does it too. Next to the right of that, we have an input adjustment. This adjusts how much of the signal is being driven into the actual compressor. And right below it, we have an attack setting. Now the attack setting, what this does is it's kind of how fast the compressor kicks in. So we've got a 0.25 setting, we got a 2.5 setting, and we've got a 25 setting. So these are all in milliseconds, 0.25 milliseconds, 2.5 milliseconds, and 25 milliseconds, and that's how fast the compressor is going to basically kick in once it detects that the signal has crossed the threshold of this. So you can take a listen to 3 different versions here. I like 25 milliseconds for drums. That's just absolutely crushing it. It's just slamming the transients. More moderately paced. We're only going -4 dB on the compressor. And what this one is doing is just compressing it right after the actual snare attack. So it's emphasizing the snare attack by attenuating the volume after each hit. And that's what that's doing right there. Underneath that, we have an output adjustment. That's the overall adjustment of the compressor plugin. And then we have the release, which releases the compression from the actual being compressed, I guess you could say. I use this as more of a carving tool. So you can have a really minute release setting or a really drastic one. You can see the meters. Or you can even set it to an auto mode. Pretty cool, right? After that, there's a threshold adjustment. This kind of allows you to adjust kind of how the compressor is perceiving the audio signal. So once the audio crosses the threshold, it does that slamming that we're hearing. So if we make this more drastic, or not drastic at all, I keep my compression kind of moderately paced because I don't want to have too much of a attenuation going on here, but it's a pretty good setting. Right next to this is the ratio setting. So as you can tell, 1-to-1's not that drastic, but you can really slam this thing and make it just spank it if you put up to 20. Like that's that really, really crazy compressed drum sound. Adjust the dry signal a little bit. And we'll listen to what it sounded like before. So we're really adding some energy to this track. After that, we have a limiter that you can kick on. Now we're really, really pumping this thing. And then it also has a compressor, an expander and a gate in there. So you're trying to get some signals out of the signal. You can use this to do that. So we'll throw it on gate. You can hear what that sounds like. Sometimes people use gates to add some more thwack to their kick and snare. You know, it's a pretty cool effect. Or you can use the expander, which a little bit. It's not as drastic. You can do that too. Yeah. So you can use a gate to take out noise of a track. So if you have like ambient cymbals that aren't really you don't really want to use them. What you can do actually is use a gate to do that. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, that's like a kind of a constructive use for this, how you would use it to fix something. So if you use it creatively, what you can actually do is apply it so that it pops. And what that does is it applies some popping to your signal, and some people really like that sound, especially for drums. So this allows you to do that. And then obviously you have your expander mode in here. Expander mode is like a little bit less of a drastic sound of a gate, but it actually reduces volume in between strong hits, just like the gate, but just not as drastically. So you can adjust this too. That's without it. Kind of attenuating those hi-hat hits. You can use that to add energy to maybe the hi-hat if you're maybe using like a soft synth that doesn't have that much energy in the hi-hat. It's kind of attenuating the volume and adding energy to that. Pretty cool. So above that is the EQ, and the EQ is really cool. It's got 4 bands, they're all running parallel, and you can... Is this integrated with the software right now? This right here? No, this is a separate unit. This is a separate unit running audio into it. I'm just working off of SONAR right here. But inside of here, you got 4 bands of EQ. You can choose that to be a pre-EQ, so it's before, kind of the way it looks here. Post, so that the EQ is afterwards, or a sidechain EQ. I'll explain that in a second. What's going on here is you have 4 bands. You can adjust them right here. You can see what's going on with all of your adjustments in the lower half of this plugin. See how that changes down there. That's the EQ band 1, 2, 3, 4. You can turn it off, turn it to a peak mode, which is, up, or a dip mode, which is peaking down, and obviously the bypass mode. And then you can select how much gain you want to apply here. It also has an input signal to drive it in there, and a separate bypass signal. So after that, like I was saying, the sidechain feature to the EQ is really cool. So a sidechain is essentially, on this module, is taking the EQ'd signal and sending it into the detector of the actual compressor. So what I mean by that is we're taking the signal, cloning it, and using that to basically make the compressor more drastic or more energetic in any real way. It's a pretty creative tool is what I'm trying to say here. It's kind of like taking the kick drum, for instance, boosting it up 20 decibels, finding it in about the 100 hertz area, throwing it on sidechain. Yeah, what a sidechain's doing is it's taking the signal and putting it into the detector. So we've got the signal coming through here, and then the sidechain goes out, comes back into the compressor, and what we're doing is I'm tweaking the signal to emphasize the low end. And now the compressor is going to detect that there's a lot more low end in the signal and just crush the kick drum track. But it's going to leave the snare track alone. So see how that's with it off. But now I've got the low end boosted right around 100 hertz. That's where the kick drum's really smacking. Turn it on. Now it's attenuating the kick drum, but leaving the rest of the signal alone. So that sidechain is kind of it's a really cool feature if you're looking to do some like creative bus compression and you don't want to like start routing things all around your DAW.